why you use Gemini and how you use it?
Yeah, my friend is actually the one who got me started on it. He's a big, I guess, like technology proponent type of person. So he's always been big on like Google. So when it first started, well, I'm not sure how far it is into development now, but I guess he started using Gemini mainly for like coming up with like training routines because now he's like trying to work out. So he uses it mainly for that, and then he also uses it to like brainstorm. So he was telling me, yeah, you like to talk a lot because I tend to send him long voice notes about, I guess, just streams of consciousness sometimes, and I also write here and there. Um, so he was telling me, yeah, you should maybe try using it. So I just use it mainly for if I feel like writing something to, I guess, fine tune it here and there. I also play football, so sometimes I use it to come up with like different practice routines. But in terms of like image creation or getting more involved into it to the point of like using Claude, I haven't gotten that far. I think I'm too lazy to really do that, to be honest. But in terms of your question, I'm not really sure if it can be said that it helps or hurts. I think it's too early in the stage that it is right now to really determine that. I think if we become too dependent on it, maybe it could hurt because it may make us lazy. Maybe the dystopia becomes like Wall-E. I don't know if you ever seen that movie, but
Yeah, and Wally,
as of right
everybody
now,
is like fat and they live like on a spaceship while the world is covered in trash, right?
yeah, and I don't know if I don't think we're that far into technology to do that because I mean right now it's still just kind of like a software thing. It doesn't have like a more practical use. Like we don't have robots running around.
So yeah, it looks like your introduction has been through Google Gemini, but there's no particular reason I think for your use cases that you have to stray away from that. I like using different LLMs, large language models, just for the sake of having that experience and kind of learning, at least in my own perspective, what works best with Gemini, what works best with Claude, what works best with Chat GPT, and so on. But my experience with Gemini has been that for general stuff and for the things that you've been talking about, I think Gemini probably works really well for those sort of requests.
Yeah, it's been pretty good for me. I tend to how should I say? I tend to have a lot of thoughts. I overthink a lot, and I guess to fine tune it, it does kind of help to see like where things could be perceived. Um, so it's helped me with like various poems that I've written. Um, Not that I'm sharing these poems, but or these proses that I write all the time, but I guess it's just kind of nice in that sense because I'm not really that great of a writer, but um, when I'm trying to express an idea, it does help to be able to ask Gemini, oh, how does this come off, or how would this be perceived, or what do you think about this? And it gives feedback. So yeah, it's been nice for that. And then in terms of, I do kind of want to use Claude, but I just don't. I don't know. I just don't really know. I'm not that technologically advanced to, I think, use it because it seems like there's a lot of use cases. A lot of people seem to be building apps simply from different prompts these days, but I'm not exactly sure what I would want to build or how to really go about that.
Yeah, I think Claude really excels on the technical side of things. I have used it and enjoyed it more than my normal LLM, my normal AI driver, ChatGPT, for math and coding. So, like, kind of number heavy things. I'm an MBA student, so some
Mm,
of our classes are more terminology and understanding, supply chain, just kind of verbally. And then other classes are like crunchy numbers. It actually kind of feels like a math degree half the time. And I just like
mm,
ChatGPT. It's the one I've been using since 2022. So that's my kind of normal. If I search for something, I search on Google rather than Bing. It's just, who I am. And I have
yeah.
had some struggles with ChatGPT. I think for whatever reason, it's not quite as good as it should be when it comes to math and coding. And I have found Claude to be better for those specific sort of tasks. But my university has a relationship with OpenAI, the makers of ChatGPT. And so I have a free pro enterprise account, and I
Uh,
sometimes just stick with ChatGPT even for math and coding because it basically has no limits, at least limits that I have encountered in my general use. Where Claude, I don't pay for any AI other than the free account I have with ChatGPT. So Claude is a free account and it works really well. But then when you start running into some of those limits, it just gets very frustrating. So I use Claude for very specific things. But if you just wanted to download the app or use it through the Anthropic website, the makers of Claude, I think it would probably be just as intuitive and easy to use as Gemini. The only issue, of course, is when you're jumping around from LLM to LLM, you're not going to have,
mm,
the library of what you've been discussing with it. So if you're like doing poetry or if you're doing some training athletically, and you ask it a question, if you jump over to another AI, it's not going to have the history of what you've already been talking about. So you'll lose that. But if you're willing to kind of, sometimes people, I never do this because I can't pay attention, but sometimes people will read multiple books at the same time and they can do
mm.
that. I'm more of a, I want to
Yeah.
finish my book before I pick up the next one. So I usually stick with one AI for one thing and then maybe use another AI for another purpose. I enjoy having that whole library of discussion behind me when I'm using ChatGPT, so it has context. I like. It's been a while. I'm not sure how it works on Gemini, but I'm sure it's something similar on ChatGPT. You now can have project folders, so you can have different chats for similar topics within one folder. Keeps it all together. It also makes it easier for you to remember where everything is. I usually don't delete chats unless there's a really specific reason, which usually is I run into some sort of barrier and I realize I phrased something incorrectly and I want to start over. And I don't want ChatGPT to remember the bad discussion that we had. So that's usually the only time I delete them. But otherwise, I have them all scheduled into, or rather organized into different folders for, similar things that I'm asking. And yeah, there's no reason that I couldn't have similar results with Gemini or Claude, but I just use ChatGPT probably mostly because I've used it in the past and I have the free enterprise account because of my university.
Yeah. I'm curious to know, like, because you said you use it for like a lot of like coding and math. Does it? So, do you have to like run it within like the platform of Chat GPT, or does it integrate with like I don't know. Let's say if you have MATLAB or something, would it be able to do functions within that?
I haven't played around with ChatGPT has a whole section of like apps that you can integrate into ChatGPT. I'm sure there's probably some way to do that, but I'm also a bit paranoid, so I never give AI like access to these other things. And even with my Google account, I'm very hesitant to give other services access to my Google information. So I can't tell you that specifically, but I've done a lot of Python coding and what's it called? um, there's a service that's free, and it basically uses Gemini as your built-in AI that it's in your Jupyter notebook, and you can click on a certain section of code and say, explain this. And if you're having errors, you can say, why am I getting errors? You also can just start an open notebook and describe to it what you need, and then say, make that, and then it will make it. Sometimes it's been kind of slow. Other times it's been quick. I guess it just really depends what you're asking it. It's Colab, Google Colab. And it's spelled collab as opposed to collab, like collaboration. So it's COLAB .research.google.com. And so if you're doing at least Python coding, yeah, you just start a new notebook, or you can open up a notebook you already have in your computer, and then Gemini is built right in. What were you saying, Trevor?
Yeah, I was saying, so it runs like an IDE, like a development environment.
Yeah, like it just Google runs a normal Jupyter. There's a bunch of I'm not particularly good at Python. I just had to do it for some classes, and I've done it in the past. So you sign in with your normal Google account, because it's a Google service, and then inside of it, yeah, you can run a local runtime. You can run a Google Cloud runtime. There's a bunch of other options that I played with the first time I used it, and then just decided I don't know what any of these are, so I'm just going to stick with the normal kernel that they give me. But yeah, it might be able to run other things other than Jupyter, but I just run Jupyter notebooks, and it works really well.
Okay, yeah, because I do, like, I'm not necessarily against AI, due to the fact I think I guess I have a favorable opinion of it due to the Iron Man movie. So I've seen, like, where some people seem to have been able to, like, kind of build a system almost like Jarvis in a sense, or at least, yeah, something similar to that. Maybe more elementary than what we saw in the movie, but it does seem like it could be very helpful to an individual. I don't know about humanity as a whole, but I think for individual case by case basis, it's been positive. At least for me, it has. I don't think I've had any negative effects. I can't say I've had any negative things happen to me. I'm not so big on the image creation or like video creations. But then at the same time, I'm not against that. I know some people kind of are against AI being used to make images, or because they feel it detracts from, I guess, like, real artists. But for me, it's just been, I don't know, I guess that's a side thing to me. I'm more interested on how it can be used practically, in a sense of, like, integrating into, like, maybe systems like let's say driving a car, or like any transportation vehicle, or maybe assisting people in their home, things like that.
Yeah, and those are use cases that there's a lot of development in currently. So Waymo, I'm not sure all the different metros that Waymo is in, but it's in several metros in the United States. I think most of the time it doesn't drive on freeways, but I think I read that also could be changing. Whatever the case, Waymo, they actually use Jaguar cars. So like the British Jaguar company, it's kind of strange. And these Waymo cars, if you've never seen them, they're very iconic. You see them rolling down the street and you're like, oh, that's definitely a AI self-driving car. But they released data for the last couple of years, and Waymo is significantly safer than you or I driving. And it is comparing
Mm.
apples to apples because there are some places Waymo doesn't go. And it's not just talking about, well, 500 miles driven with Waymo versus $500 with or 500 miles with a human. It's talking about the same streets, the same itineraries, the same time of day, the same traffic patterns. Waymo has significantly less human injury causing accidents than drivers of any kind. So Uber, Lyft, people with kids, singles, old people, young people. Waymo is much safer. Now, Waymo has problems. I think within the last 6 months, San Francisco is one of the cities that Waymo has been in for a while. There was like a big rainstorm in San Francisco, and a bunch of Waymo cars got stuck like it was raining. And then so all of a sudden there was water all around the car. And so the car just like stopped driving. It was like, uh, we're surrounded by water. We don't know what to do. We're not programmed for this. And we're just going to kind of shut down because we don't know what the next move is. And actually, that's kind of safe when you think about it. If the AI car, self driving autonomous vehicle, doesn't know how to drive, I guess it would be better to stop rather than to kind of make it up. But then the problem is that these Waymo cars were blocking traffic because they shut down on streets. I think sometimes with people in them, right? Other times just empty. So that's a problem. I saw a video one time where somebody got dropped off in a parking lot and then the Waymo couldn't get out because I guess by the time it had come around to the other side of the parking lot, the exit slash entrance had been flooded and it won't drive through water apparently as a safety precaution. And so it was like stuck in the parking lot. It was trying to like get its, navigate another way out of it. So you run into these sort of problems that a human driver clearly would have a better idea of what to do in a situation like that. But when it comes to we're just driving and we're not having any of these weird malfunctions, Waymo is much safer than human drivers. And the data shows that. It doesn't seem to even be a discussion. Um, Waymo has gotten better with time. When it first debuted, however long ago, there were many more problems. So it's a work in progress. Just like with anything, until you actually test it out and you encounter all these real life situations, you can't really prepare for that. So yeah, every once in a while there's something like a rainstorm and then Waymo doesn't know what to do. But then the next time there's a rainstorm, it will know what to do, or at least it will react better and have less clear um, issues like cars shutting down in the middle of traffic. So I guess, once you run these for 10 years, just pick a amount of time, you're going to have significantly less problems than you do today. And even today, they are significantly safer than human drivers who are better equipped to deal with all of these different kinds of situations. But when it comes to just driving, we're more likely to make mistakes and not pay attention. And then you also have all of the, Waymo's never going to be drunk. You can say what you want about self-driving and autonomous vehicles. Waymo's never going to be taking drugs. It's never going to be tired. It's never going to be drunk. It's never going to be irritable and pissed off. Um, so, the end result is Waymo's safer. There's also, you mentioned like in-home care. Um, there's a lot of research, or at least a lot of press that's being made about the idea of giving lonely older people some sort of companion through AI. I think that's mostly like talking or chatting with AI as opposed to some sort of like person that sits on the couch with them and watches Wheel of Fortune. But give it time and they'll probably have a whole range of AI options for older people who are living at home by themselves. So it's a fascinating time to be alive. I think AI, to talk about these options that you were discussing a moment ago, I think it's a clear benefit to humanity, and it's not even close. But that's my perspective. I'm doing these shows because I want to know your perspective. Oh, how you doing, Dream? You just joined us over on Stereo. You want to join me as a co-host and tell me about your AI use? I would enjoy that. I was just talking to Trevor. He just had to pop out over on Stereo. He was a Gemini user, Google Gemini, and used it for workout routines. He also writes poetry and used Gemini to assist him with that.